There's a hell for girls like you, and it's filled with boys like me. Slide to slide up to my side, and we'll kick it up a few degrees. Now I've been digging you, and you've been digging me. Slide to slide up to my side, and we'll kick it up a couple more degrees. I can see the fire in your eyes. If the room starts burning, when it comes, there's no surprise. 'Cause there's a hell for boys like me. It is filled with girls like you. Slide to slide up to my side, and we'll see what kind of trouble we can get into.
Well, hello, Mark Marshall. How are you?
Hello there, Will. How you doing?
Mark, I'm doing so much better now that I'm speaking with the acclaimed singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist. And I am so excited that our audience just got a little sneak peek of your talent. Mark, where were you born, and when did you realize that not only did you have a love for music, but also instruments?
I was born in New York City, and I was banging on instruments from the time I was like 3 or 4 years old. It's just been something in my life as long as I can remember.
It's amazing. Now, was there a point, did you have like an aha moment at all as a young adult where you were like, I can do this for a living, I'm good?
No, not really, because it was never about making a living. I mean, my dad was a session guy in New York for 3 decades, so I grew up around that industry. But it was, I mean, he was off going to work and I was at home. It was always more for me about, wow, I can actually sit down and record a guitar. Then I could sit down and record a bass to go along with the guitar. Then I could sit down and record drums that go along with the guitar and the bass. And because I loved music so much, to me, it was a blast. I just loved doing it. There's a book called Flow. And it's about when you get into this state where literally time disappears because you're so into what you're doing. And I'm a bit of an ADD head, and in ADD circles they call it hyperfocusing. Well, that's what happens when I come into the studio. It's like I'll sit down and I'll start working on stuff, and I look up and 4 hours have gone by. It's just a matter of love. It's what I was born to do.
Well, that's the thing. You're talking about bliss, my friend, and the fact that you were able to step into your bliss and your power and, dare I say, flow from an early age, I think also stems from the fact that, not only is it from your bone marrow, from your father, but the fact that it looks like you got support, which is not usually the case for many artists.
I actually didn't, to be honest with you. And it's
Really?
a longer.
Let's go into it then, Mark.
Well, that's
Wow.
that's a therapy that's a therapy conversation.
Mark,
right there.
me too, baby. I have a lot to unpack. This is why I'm in black. So we'll unpack that another day. Oh my God,
yeah.
me too, baby.
No, in fact I didn't, and that's kind of a testament to, I firmly believe that a soul is born into the body that you inhabit, and the
That's
soul
right.
that was born into this body was meant to make music, regardless of the fact that I didn't have that support. It's I can't not do it. I'm meant to do it.
Well, there's that saying, right? If you even remotely want to do something else, do it, because show business is too hard. But I'm just curious, Mark, and not to unpack it, but
Yeah.
I just find it fascinating when I have spoken with some artists whose parents were in the business in some way, shape, or form, that they almost deter them from it. What was that jarring to you, or did you just kind of put
It was.
blinders on?
Well, I mean, look, the thing is, you have to have something to compare it to,
That's right.
So if you know somebody who's got like really supportive parents and are like, here, I'm going to take you to a studio, here, I'm going to teach you how to, right? Then you have a comparison. All I knew was I didn't have that. And I had no expectation of having it in the first place. I was just like, this is what I do. This is what I'm going to do. This is what looking back at it, yes, I'm disappointed about it. And I wish it had been different. I have kids now. And for me, the lesson that I learned from my parents was to, among other things, was not to be my parents, is to be supportive, is to say, you want to mess around with the bass? Here's a bass. you know, I mean, because that's how I would have liked it.
Isn't that the beautiful thing about now being a parent, that you can actually make the choice to change the narrative, to change the legacy line? And also, Mark, I'm sure you worked on this in therapy. God knows I have some, I can relate, but I won't make this about me for once. God bless America. Is the fact that I'm curious, with that little bit of friction, with that little bit of resistance, you were able and maybe forced to even sharpen those tools in your tool belt that much more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I think, look, I've always been somebody who just kind of bangs around. That's how I've lived my life, and that's how I've made music, and it's how I do the media work that I do. I'm not a book guy. I'm drawn to, oh, really? That's a 15th century glockenspiel? I've never played one. Let me pick it up and bang on it. I've always been kind of driven that way,
I love that.
as opposed to having it be happening because of outside forces. It's just kind of my nature.
You were just a doer, and you figured it out along the way. But I also love this childlike sense of wonder you have, Mark. I mean, I'm looking at this adult. You're incredibly talented, and for more on you, obviously people can go below this video and deep dive into your incredible career and artistry. But this childlike sense of wonder, Mark, I'm curious about, because in speaking with a lot of artists, especially artists, that they've all kind of in some way, shape, or form been forced to reacquaint themselves with their inner child. But,
Yeah.
but I feel like you've always been acquainted with him.
Yeah. To a point. I mean, look, I also think it's easy to, even in a subtle way, get jaded. Like, for instance, when I was 11 or 12, I was like working with a 2-track tape recorder and bouncing tracks back and forth because I had no way of recording multiple tracks, right? And I would sit there for hours doing it because I was just driven to do it. Well, now you can see, obviously, I have like all this gear, and I'm not in here every day, 6 hours a day going, oh, cool, I can. And I have to remind myself, hey, dude, if you were 11, you'd be on this. Like, you wouldn't be able to get in here because you'd have to push yourself out of the way, it's a gratitude practice. You have to keep looking at it and going, wow, I have this, and I can, so you have to make yourself, like I say, life gets in the way. But you have to remind yourself, like, that this is what I'm here for. And once you get in, it's so delicious.
Listen, Mark, you are such an inspiration. I'm sure your kids,
Thank you.
whether or not they like tell you a lot, but again, just this idea that you're such living embodiment. And I'm getting emotional thinking about it, but again, I'll pay you later for the therapy. But I love the fact that you, Mark, are the living embodiment of what it is to wake up every day and make the choice, because we live in a world today that sometimes tends to focus on the negative and the darkness. And the fact that you live in this gratitude, although hard, yes, every day, to make the choice, you do it.
Yep.
It's beautiful. That's my soapbox moment. Anyway, Mark, listen, I could speak with you forever, but I'm so grateful for the time you took today, and I am so glad that we're connected now.
Me too. Well, thank you. This was a pleasure and a half. I look forward to doing it again with you sometime.
Would love it, Mark. Thank you.
All right. Take good care.
You too.